Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella has finally answered back to Jim Ryan's statement about the regulatory branches looking closer at the Microsoft deal in purchasing Activision. Here's what he said. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll tell you what he said in just a second, but first, if you could just real quick hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, and like the video if you like it before we continue. So, diving right in, here's the full quote, and then we're going to dive into the story. This is from the video interview. He said, "For us in gaming, we have one goal, which is to bring more games to more gamers on all platforms and provide more choice for publishers everywhere and developers everywhere. And so everything that we are doing with our content, with our cloud and community really is all about driving that choice and that opportunity." Sorry for the typo. So we feel very, very confident. And of course, any acquisition of this size will go through scrutiny, but we feel very, very confident that will come out, we're number 4, number 5, depending on how you count in gaming. In fact, the number 1 player in this case, Sony, I think even in this period has acquired 3 companies. So if this is about competition, let us have competition. Now, I'm going to read the quotes from the story because when you write it out like that, I didn't do the best reading it. Bloomberg did a really good job of breaking them apart. But basically, he is saying Sony's acquired 3 companies. They're number 1 in this space. We're number 4, number 5, which is sort of accurate, I guess. So if this is really about competition, let us compete. Sony's out there buying 3 companies. We want to buy this one big one. Let us play the game if they're going to play the game that way. And that's sort of Satya Nadella saying, okay, let's compete then. They've also recommitted to bringing games on multiple platforms. That first statement, "For us in gaming, we have one goal, which is to bring more games to more gamers on all platforms." Obviously, a lot of people are poking holes in that because games like Starfield won't be coming multi-platform, but I think he's specifically discussing the Activision deal. Now let's look at the actual Bloomberg article. So if we look at the Bloomberg article, Microsoft CEO is confident about Activision deal approval, handling of economy. Nadella says the company will be more deliberate in hiring as it weathers downturn due to, the economy not being great. So basically, it wants me to use the little hand thing. Ugh, why is it like this? Microsoft is either number 4 or number 5 competitor in the video game industry, depending on how you count, Nadella said. And the number 1 player, Sony Group Corp, has made several recent acquisitions. So if this is about competition, let us have competition. He's very clearly pointing out that Sony has acquired Bungie. They've acquired some smaller developers. They're building up their portfolio and their strategy going forward. And I've always commended Sony. Sony has done an excellent job of spending less, but seemingly getting more at the end of the day for their purchases. They're very smart about who they buy and who they partner with. Microsoft, being in the weaker position currently, I think needs to make bigger plays like this Activision Blizzard merger, which, by the way, it's absolutely going to go through. And I have 2 analyst quotes that I'm going to talk about who also agree with that sentiment. But let's continue with this Bloomberg statement really quick. Nadella also expressed optimism that Microsoft can cope with a weaker economy and rising inflation and help its customers endure as well. "The constraints are real. Inflation is definitely all around us," he said. "I always go back to the point that in an uncertain time, in an inflationary time, software is the deflationary force. Microsoft is focused on ensuring that our customers are able to do more with less," Nadella said. "So in terms of outlook, I am optimistic about Microsoft's value proposition. I'm optimistic about our share, but we are not immune from anything that is a macroeconomic headwind." Nadella said the company will keep growing in some areas after adding approximately 70,000 workers during the pandemic. "We are going to be more deliberate going forward in terms of hiring," he said. And Microsoft will be taking the same medicine, which is doing more with less, Nadella said. "We have many businesses that are really doing super well and will continue to grow, but we'll also be looking at what that macroeconomic situation is. With the company continuing to grow and increase productivity, productivity will be able to navigate the waters, he said. So Nadella kind of talking about Microsoft as a whole, but really focusing in on where they are at in the gaming space. Now, one of the things that has been sort of up in the air for some people is the question, will this deal go through? Basically, everybody is feeling that it's going to. I feel like it's basically a done deal. We've had Hogue Law on the channel before saying he feels like it's like 80%. I can't imagine a world where Sony would just suddenly back out of a deal this big. I just don't see it happening. So I think even if it does get held up by any of the regulatory branches, I think Microsoft pushes through and throws lawyers at it until it's done. So it could be a while out. Here are what some analysts are saying. Dom's Playing says, like Nadella, I am also confident the Microsoft and Activision Blizzard deal will be approved sooner or later, most likely later. It's just a deal of this magnitude is going to be scrutinized by every single person who works at a regulatory body that's in a position to do so. And of course, we've talked about the consent decree where Microsoft will definitely have to will likely have to commit to Call of Duty remaining multi-platform, as that has been the shouting point for Sony and everybody else on the Sony side who has concerns about losing Call of Duty exclusivity, because that's about $1.5 billion or something dollars for PlayStation based off of revenue reports, I believe. And that's just off the top of my head. So it's a lot of money. And that scares him a little bit. Daniel Ahmad also said, agreed, it will most likely go through in the end. Dom says, yeah, I believe it's a matter of when, not if. And my guess on when is probably Q2 next calendar year. Now, that's actually not as far off as I thought. Some people have talked about how that could be tied up for years in some sort of litigation. But yeah, next year is actually a lot sooner than I would have thought. Idle Sloth, an Xbox fan account that does a fantastic job of collecting Xbox news, says Microsoft is either number 4 or number 5 competitor in the video game industry, depending on how you count. Nadella said a report from Newzoo earlier this year put Microsoft at number 4 behind Apple, Sony, and Tencent. If the Activision Blizzard goes through, Xbox could be in the number 2 spot. And here you can see Sony. Well, you can see Sony here. Tencent is like twice the number Sony is. You can't really see where they are at because of just how I have this dumb thing set up. And then here's Microsoft at the number 4 spot. Can I do anything about this, or is that just how it scales the graphs? And then if you look, it's combined Microsoft Activision revenue. It would be Tencent here at 32.2 billion and Microsoft at 21 billion, Sony at 18.2 billion. Top companies by game revenues for a full year 2021 could show a turning tide in the games market. So that is sort of supporting the philosophy that Microsoft would end up being number 2. And I might do this as a separate story, but real quick, Jeff Grubb had a sort of exclusive thing where they said Xbox originally planned to release 9 exclusive games in 2023. The games are Hellblade 2, Perfect Dark, Fable, Contraband, Avowed, Everwild, and new games from In Exile, Compulsion, and Coalition that aren't Gears of War. So that would be an incredibly healthy layout of games for Xbox going into 2023. And I think 2023 is the year where all companies are basically making up for lost time, as 2022 has been quite slow, with the exception of, I don't know, heavy hitters like Modern Warfare 2 that is having the beta right now, and God of War Ragnarok, which I'm very excited to play come November. Let me know what you think about this. It is interesting to hear Satya Nadella talk about the deal. And if you go watch the Twitter clip, he seems very confident about this, almost poking the Sony bear, so to speak, saying, hey, if this is about competition, okay, let's compete. Let's do it. And almost, I feel like he's goading a response with how he says it. I highly recommend you go watch it. I tweeted about it on my Twitter if you want to go see that. Thank you for watching, everybody. If you like my videos, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to know when they go live. I greatly appreciate you supporting the channel. If you want to become a member and support a little bit further, You can do so by clicking the join button. You can see it right down there. And a big thank you to all of the members who've supported this channel for quite a long time. The ones at the top have been supporting for more than a year now, nearing 2 years. So if you want to continue supporting me making content like this, thank you. And you can click that join button right down there. I upload every video without ads. So if you don't like the ads, that is one way you can easily just get them out of there. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm going to get out of here, and I'll see you for the next one.